Look, there is such a force of God saying, I need your leadership in the earth right now. Now, a bit of background, if you've been tracking with us, you'll have heard words like God saying, look, I'm going to discredit some world leaders, or I'm going to put impotence in world systems, or there will be many nations who have leaders who don't have leadership capabilities. And God is working to set the stage for his remnant to lead in the earth right now. He is working to create the best environment for the church, for the ecclesia to have solutions, to have strategies. And I believe that we've been in a season where there has been much destruction that God has allowed. And we began to see the beginnings of that. And there is now a call where you don't just sit back and you watch destruction, you watch some things being uprooted or destroyed, like that Jeremiah 1 mantle, but where you now start to speak hope and you now start to know what it is to build. And they are two different mindsets. It's one thing to know what to say when God is uprooting a thing. It is a different mindset when God is actually asking his people to build. And that's where we are right now. And I believe that none of us feel fully qualified for what God is asking us to step into. Most of us are going, oh my goodness, God, I don't feel like I'm ready. I don't feel like I have what it takes to build. But now God is saying, look, you're just going to have to receive leadership weight and trust that the skills rise as the mantle lands on you. And there is a decree that you need to start to make at the beginning of this broadcast. And you need to start to say, I choose to wear the leadership mantle. And the call is, as you accept leadership, skills will rise. And that is the word of the Lord. Do not wait for the qualifications or the skills to rise before you say yes to leadership. The Lord is saying, in the saying yes to leadership, the skills will start to rise and start to be formed from the midst of you. And so that is kind of where we are right now. God has allowed leadership to be absent in the earth. He's allowed leadership and leaders to be discredited and embarrassed, but it's not for no good reason. It's now so that you can start to wear leadership mantles and then have the skills to lead and speak solution.
Yes.
Very good. Carys?
Yeah, I think there's a prayer for us as we begin then, because this is a reforming of our understanding of leadership. And as we go into this is going to be very much a laying our hands on our heads and saying, God, you need to change how I see leadership, because it's not just about platform. It's not just about what worldly influence. It's not even just about those I see in leadership over me. But if you're saying I'm a leader, that means that the credentials, as you're saying, some are different to how we've seen them before. So there's definitely a laying on of hands and saying, God, help me see leadership the way that you see it. Help me receive the mantle and not discredit myself before you've even given me the word of the Lord to say that I'm called into this. Lord, will you just help us get to that place? Will you open up our hearts and our minds and our spirits to receive this today and to step into our godly mantle for leadership in Jesus' name?
Thanks, Carys. And actually, for those of you who will be at the conference or are signing up on the live stream, I really felt the need to work with the Spirit of God to deal with where you are capped. And a lot of that is nonsense theology that starts to say a whole load of lies about needing legitimized by men, when actually I want to tell you that you are legitimized by God, that you are called, you are chosen, you are appointed, you are commissioned, you are set apart, and that the gifts of God are given and they are not revoked, they are not taken off you. And the whole sense of a man's gift making room for him, or the gift of God within you, making a space for you, has got to come to the front of our minds again. That we are not waiting for some things to be like, oh yes, on you go, I back you, I pass the baton, and all of that ugly laziness that we think I've not been released, and we're waiting for a release that man does not have in their gift to give, but that is in the gift of God to release. And it is the gift of God to legitimize you. And it is the gift of God to back you. And so we are looking and waiting and looking and waiting and looking and waiting and becoming childish, static, passive, lazy, inactive, silent voices whenever God is saying, did I not tell you? Did I not grace you? Have I not already backed you? And so a lot of what we need to be dealing with is the sense of breaking the constraints of a ball and chain that the system of Christianity has put round about us, that is a captive ball and chain where we are looking for legitimization from men. And can I tell you, if man gives you legitimization, man will take away and destroy as equally as they give. It is God who anoints, it is God who appoints, it is God who legitimizes. And actually other people recognize that God has legitimized you. And so in all of this, we have got to really start to shake off some of the Christian structures that are not kingdom structures, where too many of us are still in wait mode.
I think there have been two particular demons that have been swirling around the heads of the people of God, and they both have quite unusual names. One says, not yet, and the other says, not you. And I believe that Satan, through the mouths of those who are really partnered to religion and partnered to the demons of tradition, have coached the people of God to always believe that they need another set of qualifications, they need another level of approval, they need another layer of, yes, you can do this, permission from man. And for generations, there has been a washing by religious systems that now you are saying to yourself, not yet, not me. And the systems say, not yet, not you. But now we have come under that demonic agreement and those particular demons, and we are actually self-inflicting a limitation. We are in self-abuse, and we are saying to ourselves, not yet, not me. And in that, I think what we have to understand, when we say those things, it's not just a cap on ourselves, but we are depriving the world of our unique part to play in God's story. And this is where we have to get strong. When we play the insecurity game, or the I'm not qualified game, or I'm not yet ready game, or it's not yet me sort of game, we actually deprive from the world what God has put in us that is unique to who we are. And God is saying, look, this is a season where you don't need a gentle push out of some unhealthy behaviors. You need some ruthless warfare, where you start to get ruthless with yourself and you say, enough is enough. I'm coming out of the system that has convinced me for years, not yet, not you. And I'm choosing to wear the mantle, which is the call. And as you wear it, the skill and the ability will rise.
Yeah, very good. Carys?
Yes, it kind of comes around also. I could see, as I was looking at those two demons you were talking about, Sam, a lot of those can also manifest in things of, you know, you've had a massive season of crushing or hardship, and it's just been a major crushing season. And that being I cannot, because it's not yet, because I'm not healed enough, I'm not broken through enough, or I'm actually just so broken that I can never step into leadership. And God was speaking to me very much around Psalm 51, and he talks about, and David said, God, give me a willing spirit. That God, you do not accept my sacrifices, but God, give me a willing spirit. Help me see that my broken and contrite heart is actually pleasing to you. And it's enough for you to do in me what you want to do in me. And God is actually saying on the back of that, that I will give you a willing spirit if you come with where you are now, not just where you'll be in the future, in order for you to see yourself in the place of leadership, but actually where you are now. And God is saying, I will give you a willing spirit if you ask for a willing spirit. And that willing spirit is that I'm willing to do the thing, even if I don't think I'm ready yet. I'm willing to do the thing, even if I don't see myself the way you see me, God. And as much as we want to be in the place of understanding and knowing what God says about us, that's good and that's right. And please get healing and please get set free. But God is saying, with a willing spirit, you will be surprised by the level of a shift and breakthrough that I'm going to bring in quick succession in Jesus' name, says God.
Very good.
Yeah.
Somebody on the YouTube platform called Sai at 519 said, so asking it, that I love your questions. So are you seeing for some of us that we're supposed to move first? Yes, we are. Cast the vision, set up the foundations, then recruit for those of us looking for a community team to join us. Yes, we absolutely are. I don't know where you are watching from, Sai, great handle on YouTube, but we are absolutely saying that. And A Rose at 520, your past does not eliminate you. Look at the great leaders of Scripture. God is bigger than that, my friend. And I think we are really dealing with the need to warfare back into the place of hearing the permission and the legitimization from God, rather than only ever hearing the words of men. And the problem is that the words of men, and some of them very well-meaning, and some of them broken, and some of them scared, but we are so in the cacophony and the orchestral weaving together of noise for generations that says, I'm the boss, I hold the space. This is man talking. It's like the soundtrack of our faith that says, you know, you really need me to give you permission. You really need covering. Come on, guys, you got to be more biblically literate than that. We are talking weird things about you need to be covered. You cite me that in Scripture, and I guarantee you will not find that ugly concept. You will find concepts of submit yourselves one to another. You will find concepts of iron sharpening iron. You will find concepts of submit yourself before God, but you'll find concepts of honoring leadership and praying for leadership. That's in several scriptures. But you will not find biblical concepts of dictatorial, zero permission giving. I must cover you or your anointing goes. You won't find that in Scripture. And this heresy, and I'm going to call it for what it is, this heresy of if you're not under my covering, you're not anointed. That's not biblical. Come on, read the book. And Lauren Dingle, that historical patriarchy or historical dictator or historical kind of Nazi sort of church that says who I like, who my favorites are, that has then been a faux, I'm punching now, that has been a faux wisdom that is saying to people, I don't think you're ready and you're not trained enough, which robs the gift of God that is already in you. And we have raised in this cacophony of orchestral sound that's a discordant sound. We have this discordant sound of I must cover you. You quote me that in Scripture, you won't find it. Sorry, Jessica, your mother's, a bit agitated.
I love it.
Sam, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, very good. And we're pushing, I think, that we have lived so contained and so subdued, and we have lost the mindset of the kingdom, which is about limitless growth and replication and space for everyone to thrive, and the empowering that is so instinctive to the kingdom that sends and that releases. And God is raging against the long-term harm that religious systems have done to his people. And there is now God who rises, and he now says, look, I've tolerated some level of containment in you for a while as I dealt with some other things, but now I'm coming with a sword and with a hammer and with an axe, and I'm cutting to the root the systems of containment that have trained you out of kingdom thinking. And the irony is, the place that should be the boot camp for learning what it is to live in the kingdom, which is the church, has for many of us been a system that has trained us out of kingdom thinking and out of living the kingdom. And now God is saying, look, enough is enough. And the Lord is rising with some degree of righteous anger and justice against where these systems and these words and these things of covering have been about captivity. And the Lord is saying, look, how dare you, to some institutions and some people, how dare you use language of captivity when my kingdom is about a language of liberation? How dare you set up structures of limitation when my kingdom is a ecosystem of growth where there is no ceiling on anyone? And the Lord is saying, for many of you who are watching, you're going to have to go to town on where you have so partnered with this thought about yourself of being little, of being junior, of being under, of being less than. And there is a need for you to partner with your warrior deliverance inner instincts and even get a hand on your head and say, smash to pieces where this language of covering and this language of captivity has so warped how I think about myself.
This is very destructive talk to the structures of man. Cassie Birchall, hi on YouTube. 525, you put in there, wow, I've been told that my spiritual authority comes from my position in church, and you're getting free from that mindset. My goodness, Cassie, we bless you to get free. Can I tell you this? Your positional authority in the structure of a man-made system might be given to you, and you might have a degree of given positional authority, but your spiritual authority cannot be given from man only. Your spiritual authority is something that you are trained in the fire and comes from God. So Jessica's standing with me, and it is her birthday, so we do need to hear what she's got to say today. And I told her we were discussing this, and actually Carys and her can bat this one back and forward, and Sam and I will listen to their chat. But when I said to her, what do you want to say about leadership? You're 22 today, not till 9:41 at night, and when you were cut out. And anyway, less of the birthing story.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Let's not do that. And
yes,
you've watched us do the. But what did you learn?
Yeah, I think similarly to everything you guys are saying is that leadership, and all the leadership I've watched, the best kind and those that come fully under the favor of God is the leaders that just give. And it's a giving that I see from you and Sam. You know, it's a generosity. And when I look at, the leadership and how you call people up into calls, you've said this before, it's putting big coats on little shoulders. And I think that's exactly it. Whenever you're a leader, actually the best practice is kind of saying, look, I know I'm maybe not the best at this, but I'm going to give this to you because I know this is your strength. And it's knowing as a leader people's strengths and weaknesses. That is something you and Sam are so aware of within the ministry, is seeing people's strengths and actually where they thrive and saying, okay, I'm going to give this to you because I know it's right. And similarly, I'm not going to give this to you because I know that this is not going to be something that you actually enjoy.
Yes.
And watching that is probably the thing that I've seen and witnessed the most in the ministry, and that's where people come under their call.
So you're pushing at two thoughts there. You're pushing at, number one, leaders must be generous.
They have to be.
I actually think it's one of the first. I know we talk about character. Yep. That is all in there, and call, and yep. But any leader who is worth anything is instinctively giving if they're going to be blessed.
Yeah. I think also in reminding yourself, I mean, again, you've spoken about this, the limitless kingdom, but I think surely as a leader, that is where your thought goes to continually, or has to go to as a leader, is it's a limitless kingdom. I can give, I can keep giving. God has a portion for everyone. And you're aware of that on every single staff member you have as part of your team.
I do think that and then over to you, Carys, I do think that whoever is the leader is an ugly thought, because you're always leading leaders. But whoever happens to have the position at that point, which will change as we go through life, they should be the most generous person in the room with everything that they have. To whether it's, look, guys, give me grace, whether it's bedroom space, if they've got a spare bedroom in their house, whether it's, money in their bank, whether it's makeup that they've got left over just for me, to give that away, whether it's a position, a microphone, you got to train your heart to be ridiculously generous. Kindness, yes, but ridiculously generous, so that where you do it everywhere, so that where it matters, you are not clinging to my microphone, my platform, but it has to happen everywhere. Carys and Sam.
Yes. It also is speaking to kind of what you were just talking about the ugliness of the covering idea. And there's very different language that you guys use as leaders for us as we grow in leadership. And it's not that I'll cover you, it's that I'll back you. Like if you stumble, or you have a hindrance, you hit a blockage, I will back you. And what that language speaks to is not okay, I'll cover you and I'll keep you in a limited place, but actually it's I will help you move forward as you follow Jesus, as you follow the leading of the Spirit. I will back you and I will help you follow him. And that might be in some redirection, but it's always that backing mentality and that encouraging mentality. And that comes with generosity and kindness, because it's the kind of thing of saying, as you say, like, I'm seeing that you're hitting a wall of finances. I will back you and I will help you move past that hindrance so you can move forward with the call in your life.
Very good.
Or I can see that there's a lack and I have the space to fill that. I have the ability to help fill that space so that you can pursue what God is doing. And it's that kind of mentality of I'll back you, I'll help push you forward, I'll help you keep running the race. That's very different to the covering mentality, and I think that's what you're touching on, Jessica.
And Carys, just while you're large on the screen there, I do think that it's worth commenting on the fact that, as a top tip for those who are watching, if there's not generous hearted leadership that's not instinctively generous, is it ultimately you will smack into each other. Because ultimately, in the wrong sense, ultimately what will happen is a creative will have an idea, a leader will have a strategy, and the generosity, if it's not true and if it's not displayed everywhere, eventually will crash that relationship. Eventually it will, if it's a lie or if it's a pretend generosity. And a leader must be continually generous of hands off, hands off, hands off. Go. Have a go. What's the worst that can happen? I mean, seriously, sing that song. What's the worst that can happen? Preach that sermon. What's the worst that can happen? Lead that group. What's the worst that can happen? And that sense of like, oh, and here's a budget to do it. Oh, and do you need another member of staff? How can we facilitate that? And look, guys, if you don't have that round about you, or you think it's a fake commitment to generosity, be scared, holy fear, because eventually you'll have an idea, you'll slap into stinginess, and that whole relationship will deteriorate because you'll be promised and then it won't deliver.
Yeah, and if you're in a church and your leader is not the most giving person on the in the room, then how on earth do you expect the rest of the congregation to follow in any footsteps, host the dinner parties, or have the people? They have to be witness to someone that is leading in that example. Same with every other kind of, part of leadership. So even just we were joking about this earlier, Sam, when you first started at GPA, when you were a little sapling, little young thing.
A sapling. Sam the sapling.
Sam the sapling. I like that.
I know that'll not catch on.
Oh. But when you first started, you were young. Even you just really started when he started.
We had no idea what we were doing.
And instantly it was like, Sam, be a director of our charity. And instantly, he did it well, thank goodness. But
yeah, he did.
How many doors did you have to just go up and open because you'd been given that space to go?
Yeah, I think with how do you expect your people to grow if you don't give them something to grow into? And that is leadership. I'm always going to push you or give you something that you can grow into. And I think as we take this concept, because I think speaking that leadership is generosity is actually warfare against a religious order of leadership, because religion trains you that another person's growth threatens your position. So when you're wedded to the religious spirit, when you are in that religious mode, you'll always keep people's growth subdued in case they outgrow you in an area, then threaten you. But the kingdom that's about generosity is this mindset of, if you grow, we all grow. If you get better, we all get better. If you thrive in an area that's either opposite to my gift or exactly the same as my gift, we all get to break through that ceiling together. And it's that journey of life that are interwoven with one another. But I put a caution in here. You've got to check where generosity begins. Is it just that I'm being generous because I think that's what qualifies me for leadership, so I'll give here and I'll give there in an artificial sort of way? Or does it begin in your heart? Because I think when generosity begins in your heart, it does come out with, I'll give you money or I'll give you space. But generosity that begins in the heart actually first comes out with, I will give of myself to you, which is time and openness and space and conversation. I will make sure that I am generous first with who I am, and I will give myself away for you so that we can all grow and that we can all be better. And this generosity, I think it is so against the tide of much of the leadership of the age. But if you want to feel the favor of God on you, then as Jessica says rightly, you've got to start to grow generosity from your heart.
Yeah, I think
it's funny.
Oh, sorry.
No, go for it. No, go for it, Carys.
Yeah, it speaks to an accessibility to those who are in leadership as well, because it's modeling something beyond just gift, and it's modeling something just beyond, if you watch me be a gifted preacher or a gifted, watch how I model this part of leadership, watch how I model this part, but it's only based on gift, and it's not based on actually, as I make space for you to model things such as righteousness or courageous leadership or generosity and giving space. If you're not modeling those things and actually giving access in order for people to come up into that space to see those parts of leadership, they won't learn that and they won't know that. And all they'll see leadership to be is based on gift. It is based on those things. And I love what you're saying, Sam, about what you're saying is you watched all of those aspects, and that's what helped formulate as you grew into leadership, not just seeing the platform side of things, but actually seeing those things modeled in character and modeled in relationship. And I think that's a whole different paradigm to how we've seen it before. Yeah, I would also just like to add, if you're
in a congregation and, you know, you're like, oh, but the leader hasn't given me this space to grow. Where are you? Look back at yourself and say, like, where have I allowed an open door and invited people into my home? I mean, I'm not, you know, on any means on this director's board here at all, but I sit in the congregation under some phenomenal leadership. And instead of being like, oh, where can I get to on that platform, or where can I get to in that space in that church of even just, oh, I want to be on the volunteering rota. Well, then where are you giving? Look back at yourself even in the congregation and say, where am I giving even just in my positional space that I have? And, you know, we've been chatting a bit about assets, Carys and I, in the last few days. What assets do I have? And it doesn't even have to be physical. That I can say, I give to people.
You keep going. Keep going, Jessica. That's a good point.
Even just spiritually, you know, what gifts has got, what gifts has got. I'm so
sorry, we might
I'm
just
so
have to take a moment of.
That's awful. What assets spiritually can I, you know, gifts from God do I have in my space that I can pass on and give to people, you know, and in that space of generosity, then I think that's where the Lord sees you and favors that level of just, I will be willing, even if I'm not on the platform space.
Carys.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Why did we have this conversation?
The point of it is you start where you are. The point of it is you start with where you are and what you've got, and you are generous with that. And I think the Lord is always looking for somebody who takes initiative. Let me say that again. I think the Lord is always looking for somebody who takes initiative. And we think the opposite. We think the Lord is looking for somebody who sat and waited to be asked. And we have misunderstood that as holiness. But the Lord is looking for somebody who can take initiative. And I think God rushes to that because that's faith and that's risk and that's opening yourself up to sometimes ridicule when you have a go at some things. And so, you know, we can talk about this and you can go, yes, I already know this. But when did you last take initiative and use what was already in your hand that actually makes you one who can be used to lead others? Yes. And actually, can I just, somebody in the comments, a very good question. Your questions are always great. Somebody said, I thought that you had to have, this is from Shauna Douglas. Hi, Shauna. It says, I thought you had to have man's confirmation for the office of the prophet. And then you got question mark, is that not true? And so I'm leaning in to read the question. Shauna, the point you're making there is you're right to ask, because our culture says, oh, no, you've got to wait for man's confirmation. There we go, Shauna and Matthew Douglas. No, you really no. In fact, absolutely not. So let's look at Sam. Do you want to pick up the Jeremiah and I'll do the Amos truth? Amos says in the opening few chapters of his book, he says, look, I'm not the son of a prophet. I don't even know that I'm actually a prophet. He just talks about the call of God coming to him kind of and shocking him. It's a fascinating little discourse that Amos has with the Lord about how on earth he got there, that he was just anointed and appointed without hierarchy, without family line structure, without inheritance. Amos 7:14 there, my husband is on it. But his shock of just finding that God just decided. Sam, do you want to pick up the Jeremiah truth, which is very similar?
Yeah, you know, in Jeremiah chapter 1, it talks about before I formed you. That's the words there. I knew you before you were born. I set you apart and appointed you as a prophet to the nations. And that truth there, the word actually before you were born, the literal translation of that is when you were not yet. When you were not yet, like you weren't even yet formed. that at that point, God already called you. And he's saying to Jeremiah, by the time you're born, your call is already ancient history, because way, way, way back before you were formed, this is what I called you to do. And God solidifies Jeremiah's calling as beginning and ending in God himself, not in Jeremiah and not in others. And I love, even as it goes on, Jeremiah saying, I'm not qualified. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to speak. And God says, I'm having none of it. Just say what I say. Do what I tell you to do. Go where I tell you to go. In other words, your call begins and ends with God. He determines its parameters. He determines its scope. He is the covering. He is the securing force of it. He backs you. And more than that, God, even with Jeremiah, which is remarkable, he doesn't wait to give Jeremiah a call until he's 30 so that he can watch how he'll do in school or watch how he'll do in life. He determines it before Jeremiah is even born, and he does the same with us. And the sense of you need to feel that your call is secured in God, not in man and not in a structure. It begins and ends with God.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Jessica, because we got you on, do you want to lob a ball to Carys for her to bat? Of what else have you learned up close and personal? I have no idea what she's going to say now. This is completely Jessica on her birthday having birthday leadership ideas. So come on.
Yeah, I think the thing that I witnessed the most is, well, like probably your ease in just, I mean, your communication is great, as
Thanks.
VC. But it's the storytelling of leadership, I think, that's impacted me the most. And each story and testimony or part of the journey that the leader shares, I find like it's not even just being relatable, but I'm like, I've seen their journey, and it eases your heart, I think, to see the conversations of storytelling through leadership. This is where, you know, I was, it's not a trauma dump in some senses of leadership, but it's like, this is my... but it's, you know, it's a storytelling and the arc of leadership in that they talk about their journey and they talk about what's moving forward. And I mean, maybe that's a prophetic thing where they're just continually like, this
oversharing.
Yeah. But no, there's a beauty, I think, to the storytelling and leadership that I see and I witness and I understand, you know, the ebbs and flows of life that comes with leadership. And you guys obviously just put out a fantastic little snippet on Par TV, all about, you know, children in ministry and how leadership is not just a single person's choice. You're looking at your whole family.
So are you talking about not just the stories that we tell to like a parable, but you're talking about
the story of your family and the story of
living very vulnerably and living very without pretense? Is that what you're pushing?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. It's the vulnerability. I think you said it perfect there, with this vulnerability in leadership that I have to share a lot, and your experiences and your family life. And you said this already, we're very seen. And that has to be a discussion in leadership. So you have to be.
So you're adding to number one, generosity. Isn't this fascinating? What a 22-year-old, because you're Gen
Z.
I always mix up with what we all are. Tell me again, Sam and Carys, you're
Millennial.
I'm Gen
Z. I'm Gen Z. I am millennial, and I'm very millennial.
Okay, Carys.
I'm Gen Z.
You're Gen Z. What am I? X?
Boomer.
No, I'm not a boomer. Cheeky. So no, I might be 50 next year, but not. So the whole point of that is, isn't it interesting what a Gen Z picks as the most important things? Generosity. Sam, if you were writing it, I would have thought you and I in our generations wouldn't have picked those two, but she's driving this generosity and vulnerable authenticity.
Yeah, you guys would probably say something more along the lines of, I need someone that is statuesque and has authority and knows a structure.
Maybe.
But I think Carys now, like, they're so real, they're so honest. they just tell us the stories. You know, that's what we love, I think. So
you like me telling you stories?
I do.
She's just giving me permission for more. Carys, we said we bat it to you. Come back at us.
Gen Z are the social media YouTuber generation. So what we have seen and what our life is surrounded by is people sharing their lives all of the time. It's a lot of sharing of your life. So when people are not sharing their lives, it immediately shuts us down because it's not what we like and it's not what we're used to. It feels inauthentic and fake. So we shut off.
Sorry, Carys, can I ask you, because you're eloquent, what do you want us to be vulnerable? You know, what do you want leaders to be vulnerable about? Like, specifically what? Because, you know, like, there's levels. What are you actually, push us. Sam, you push too. What do you actually want vulnerability and authenticity about?
I would like, I was thinking about this, what we have to see modeled, because we speak about, as you're saying, modeling courage and boldness and da-da-da-da-da. We also want to see vulnerability of when you fail and get it wrong. Like, we need to see failure. Like, we actually have not glossed over, not shoved under the carpet. We have to see failure and the consequences of failure, but also the redemption of failure. And if we don't see that, we will never learn. Otherwise, we have an entire generation that are growing into this idea that if I'm not picture perfect, polished, I will never have a space. I don't know what it is to fail because I've never watched it modeled to me. I don't know how to do failure. So if we have a generation above us or leaders above us showing us what it looks like or telling us the story of their life about, here are my successes, here's where I did it brilliantly, and here's where I did it terribly, it teaches us something. We have to see failure. Otherwise, we're never going to learn how to overcome those spaces of failure as well. That's what I would say.
That's interesting. John, he's one of our ordained ministers in association with us. And John, how old are you? I don't know. Would he be in the same category? Are you he's
a Gen X.
Are you a Gen Xer, John and Perla? I don't want to age you and call you a boomer. I don't think you are. This is such a Gen Xer question. Can one be too transparent? Now, I know as an Xer how I would answer that. Sam, you answer it. You ask John's question, and then if you get it wrong, he'll kick you in the shins next week. Can one be too transparent?
Well, I think, can you be too honest and share too honestly? It depends where, but you've got to have places where you can be totally transparent. I would say that's my starting place. There has to be people and relationships where you are totally transparent. I think you've got to then use wisdom in how you share your honesty if you are a leader in a public space, and how you share a failure or a weak moment, how that's shared and what that speaks to the people. Does that enable them to teach and grow and come more connected to you, but themselves also grow better in their own relationship? I think you then have to use wisdom on what is publicly shared. I think for Gen Z, there's a very much a sense of they want to hear everything, nitty and gritty. My perspective, more millennial, would be I want to see someone's journey of how they got to where they are. I don't want to just see the result, but I want to know, how did you get there? What was the journey? Tell me not just about your strength now, but tell me how you got to that place of strength and what that looked like and the highs and lows of that. And so I would talk more about, rather than the sharing of a failure, the story of from that to where you are now, what got you there? Because as a leader, you should always be thinking about how your people grow and how they come up some levels, and even when you do share your honest moments. But you should have places and people that you're totally transparent with.
Yeah, my answer to John would be, if you're transparent, it's always because you have to have a victory at the end. There has to be this story. Why am I being transparent? It's fine if you're crazy transparent. I don't mind that, as long as the point of why you're being transparent is that you're sharing a victory or you're sharing a testimony.
You're aiming towards a testimony.
It's that conversation of the journey. It's actually, you know, there's a way out of this. And we're one of those societies now, you know, every generation combined as a society. And today we always love to know where we can get something out of it. And it's when we hear people being transparent, it's, oh, because I'm in a similar situation, but I realize that there's a possibility I can get out of it. And that's what we love to hear.
John is rightly saying, as a senior leader, you know, transparency with fruit. Yeah, thank you, John. I do think that you can't tell everybody everything. For the older ones amongst us, you just can't tell everybody everything.
Yeah.
But I think you can, because not everybody is equipped to put wisdom on your pain. And not everybody is equipped and a lot of people are fools like Job's friends. And there's only so many of Job's friends you can listen to before you shut up shop and pull down the shutters and retreat. I think you are looking for the vulnerability in casting your pearls before swine, as Linda is saying. I think you are looking for the places where you're going to be met with a degree of, let's go back to the beginning, generosity, a generosity of spirit. And I think we all want to be understood. Can I say, I don't think anybody really understands anybody else's journey. Yeah. You have to get over that. Yeah. I think your own life experience, your own hardships, your own skeletons in your closet, your own stories of pain are totally and utterly unique to you. And I would say this, the vulnerability where you want to be fully understood, I don't know that anybody will fully understand you apart from Christ. But I do think that there is a vulnerability that becomes a lifestyle. And I think culturally, the Irish find that a bit easier. Yes. They do. But you got to train yourself by degrees in vulnerability and authenticity. And you've got to step more forward than you currently have. I'm talking right to you, not to maybe share your deepest, darkest, but you got to do better than you do right now, because it's a lifestyle now where, certainly in our socials, I just kind of go, oh, right, whatever. Sam.
Yeah, it's wisdom that you grow over time, and that you grow out of, I keep this to myself, but also you don't go to the other extreme of I share absolutely everything with absolutely everybody, because not everyone can hold that. And I do think that's where you have to learn from each generation and be challenged from each generation as well, and this generational story of leadership growing and that we're walking in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yes. No, I would, Carys, do you want to add to that before I summate?
Yes, I would. I think I would speak specifically even to, I mean, I don't know if there are any Gen Z watching or people who are going to, they have Gen Z kids or no Gen Zs or whatever. But I think in that kind of, as we're having that conversation, I think there's a lesson to be learned also for Gen Z that you guys can model to us as a Gen Z of the secret place, and actually understanding the secret place and the preciousness of the secret place, because that's your first place of transparency. And that's your first place of, I am literally naked before the Lord, because we can't have that everywhere. But what we are around and surrounded by is a constantly in the world exposed life, and because of the way that we've grown up in social media and things like that, and everything's seen, everything's displayed, we want to share everything about our lives, but actually there hasn't been a lot of understanding of actually what's to be kept secret. And I'm not talking under a rug, I'm talking in the secret place with Jesus. And that is something that's cultivated, as you say, as a lifestyle. So I would say to those who are Gen Z or who are modeling that, I would stress that, to be like, find your secret place, find your secret place, find your secret place. Be there first before we start to move into the place of, these are the things that God is working through me. Be vulnerable, but do it with Jesus first.
I want to, again, beautiful comments. And Candice J. Banks on YouTube, I'm just reading your comment here, my friend. You're saying, how do you recover when you overshare? How do you recover when you overshare? What a beautiful question, and what a question that would expose that something has gone horribly wrong. And Candace, there is a sense that, I don't know whether the word is overshare. I wonder, Candace, is the word that you were vulnerable and somebody took it in the wrong way, where you were exposed. So I don't know that I would come under the hard rebuke that you're giving yourself in that statement, where it looks like you're confessing to an overshare. I would want to spin that and put yourself in a grace space where you're actually saying, I shared, not overshared, but the person I shared with took it as an exposure rather than something to be dealt with tenderly. And that probably means that friendship is not the friendship for you, or that congregational space is not the space for you. And if your vulnerability cannot be honored and is seen as a wrong overshare, those are not your people. Those are not your people. And I often think, oh, flip, there we go again, Emma, you said too much. Anybody else? Yeah, it's a constant. I'm like, flip, there you do. And you just sort of get my PAs, my assistants here laughing at me like, oh, too much verbal processing. I think I've just shrugged my shoulders now these days at my stage in leadership and go, oh, well, you know, hopefully down the line they might remember the overshare and find it useful. So if they think it's an overshare, I'm just shrugging my shoulders, their loss. You know, if they can't take the gold from it, their loss would be my, come on, swagger with me, my friend. Swagger with me. Join the overshare club on occasions and just go, their loss. They've lost, you know, I know I don't want to, you know, swagger too much into your pain, but I just go, oh, well, you know, you didn't get me enough, so your loss. Yeah. And someone's saying, you're right there. So with me, good, my friends. So Sam, Carys, Jessica, Sumait, what's your take home from this? Oh, we're over time, but quick, do a take home. Then we're taking her out for a birthday dinner.
Carys?
Oh, me. Okay. My take home, I mean, there's so much wisdom in that. My take home is definitely, when we come back, again, generosity, but I think also generosity comes with generosity to yourself. And generosity and giving yourself plenty of space to learn and to grow into these things. So if there's any of you watching them being like, oh my goodness, this is so like learning so much, like this is so good, give yourself the generosity and the space that you need in order to grow into these things. And I'm definitely going to do that from everything that I've learned from today and step into the generous space that's been made.
Jessica, your take home.
Be generous as a leader, but also Gen Z, just as much as we love truth and we love the journey and we love the story arc and the victory of that, we also need to remember that our story with Jesus doesn't always have to be displayed, because we need one in the secret place just as much as it needs to be broadcast for others to see and hear the victory in that. So always remember that your life with Jesus starts in the secret place and not always on a camera.
Sam, take us to the end.
I think this broadcast, what it reveals to me is just how much our institutions and traditions have trained us out of leadership, which is actually meant to be instinctive to who we are as the people of God. You are the head and not the tail. Leadership is instinctive. Leadership is in your DNA. You have just been convinced to think of yourself outside of that. And I want you to feel the wind of the Spirit behind you that is forcing you to think of yourself as a leader again, and to pull you out of the heresy nonsense of covering that's actually capping, that's actually a prison for your call, and that you start to regard yourself as God regards you. Before you were born, he formed you, and he determined that you would lead. He determined that you had a purpose, and you need to hear that God has given you permission and that he has given you space in his kingdom. And any wrong notion of imprisoned leadership breaks at the end of this episode in Jesus' name, and we speak a liberation to the fullness of the leader that is on the inside of you, that it now comes forth into fullness.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Carys. Thank you, Jessica Hope Stark, on your birthday. Now, the comments are coming in. What are we going to eat? And somebody's saying haggis. Well, haggis, as you know, is a 3-legged animal in Scotland. It's very rare, hard to find. It runs in circles because it's got 3 legs. And it's the national dish of Scotland, the haggis. And not haggis, but haggis. No. We're not going for haggis. We are actually going for some curry. So Samuel Stark is on there. There's your brother ongoing. Seriously, what's for my dinner?
What's for my dinner? We're going to
don't tell them where.
Some curry and buttered chicken tikka, some garlic naan, some rice.
Oh, there we go. Jessica's choice.
So wrap it up fast, guys.
Okay, we love you. Make sure that you've booked your conference ticket. There's a little bit more space in the hall. We want you to be with us, and we want to be able to give you a hug. And we will see you very soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.